Well, it's a cold, windy morning out here at Shaco. I hope this wind doesn't create too much of a problem. But winter has finally caught up with us. So hopefully it'll work out okay. Sun shining. That's a good sign. Okay, a couple of weeks ago I told you about my perseverance in pursuing a co-ed at Ole Miss, culminating in my successfully convincing her to marry me. And the instruction displayed in that little episode clearly was to persevere, persevere, persevere. Well, like in most everything, there are exceptions to that instruction. And the story I received from Doug, one of my high school classmates, is an example of deviation from that instruction, but terminating in a happy ending. Before I read that story to you, I need to give you a little history lesson on you who are not familiar with the conditions that have existed between the student bodies at the University of Mississippi Ole Miss Rebels, founded in 1844, and Mississippi State University Bulldogs, founded in 1878 as Mississippi Agricultural and Mechanical College, but referred to by Ole Miss students in the earlier days as Cal College. In short, they hate each other, which makes for some very interesting situations when best friends or family members split their attendance between the schools. Now, there's been lots of good fights around Thanksgiving between good friends and family members when Ole Miss and State battle over the Golden Egg football trophy, and when an Ole Miss grad marries a State grad, they are commonly referred to as mixed marriages. But back in the 1950s, when Doug and I matriculated, that's not a bad word, you can look it up, State received its status as a university. Well, we at Ole Miss immediately referred to it as the other university. And because of State's emphasis on agricultural areas and engineering, there are almost no women students there. Heartless Ole Miss students claim that the only good-looking females at State grew horns and ate grass, while at Ole Miss, we red-shirted Miss Americas. Well, happily, over the years, Mississippi State has attracted a female population whose attributes arguably rival the ones at Ole Miss, and both schools now have students of the gentle sex who can absolutely stop traffic. But Doug's story takes place in the early days as follows, and I'm going to read this, hopefully, and I'll do it justice. Doug says, reference your story on patience and persistence. My story is similar, but less successful. While a student at Mississippi State, I became highly interested in a young cutie on campus. Mississippi State had a population on campus at that time of 4,300 students. There were only 40 girls living on campus, and she was one of those rare, beautiful creatures. We had a class together, a non-engineering subject, since only guys or manly girls attended those. Those are his words, not mine. We developed what I considered a mutual attraction. Even shared a Coke once at the grill between classes. Well, I was willing to skip classes if necessary to have more of her time, but that opportunity did not present itself. But I finally decided to call for a date. At that time, I was not into long-term planning or even short-term thinking. So I called her on Thursday for a date on Friday. She was busy. Asked about Saturday. She was busy. Asked about the next weekend. Busy. Then I asked her when she was not busy. waited a while, seemed like hours, while she thumbed through her calendar. She then gave me a day 8 weeks out. Well, I remarked that I wasn't sure I'd be alive that far in the future. And we still talked a bit after class, but I decided I couldn't compete with 1 in 100 odds at Mississippi State. Fortunately, 5 years after graduation, I met a more beautiful girl from Jackson and fell madly in love. We just celebrated our 57th wedding anniversary. So perhaps lack of long-range planning is not always bad. That's the end of his story. But I'm telling you, Doug, you got lucky. I've met Mickey, and like me, you married a lady way above your station. But thanks for your story. And give her a hug for me. Oh, now you probably noticed my new cap. It was a Christmas present from one of my irreverent granddaughters. I appreciated the cap, but I admonished her for the message. While it may be true, it might be considered sort of tacky to swagger. I'm Jim Ritchie. I'll see you again next time.